Welcome to another edition of From the Press Box on this May 24th, 2021. My name is Rob Leonard, and joining me, as always, you know, brother, I just was thinking this moments ago. You and I have never had a other co-host. You've been on other shows of sports talk on the station, but I've never brought in anyone else, and you've never brought in anyone else. Just something to think about. Anyway, of course, I am Rob Leonard. Joining me, of course, is my brother and co-host, Tim Leonard. Hello, brother. How are you?
Good morning, brother. As always, I am outstanding. We got another week of sports ahead of us.
May 24th, 2021. You know what next week is, brother? Besides Memorial Day and our sister's birthday on Friday.
Anniversary.
Or Saturday, I should say. Our anniversary. Our anniversary starting. We're going to hit 7 years of doing this fine radio show. And we've only missed one show. And that was when I was in the hospital. So we're going good. We're going good.
Required a hospitalization to keep us off the air.
That's right. And I look back, you know what? I probably could have done it from my bed.
Oh my God, stop. You
know, I probably could have, now that I think about it. But
yeah, I'm sure the nurses would have been thrilled about that. And I'm sure the other person in your hospital room would have loved hearing you talk about sports for an hour.
I had no one in my room for the entire time. That was the beautiful part about
somebody
it.
Else? I thought there was somebody else.
Nope, no, there's no one else. So anyway, brother, I'm not sure where to start. We're in the playoffs right now. The Knicks, the Nets, the Islanders. It's good time right now to be a New York fan. I just want to quickly start, brother. And I know we're not a golf show, but seeing some of the things that Phil Mickelson did yesterday, being the oldest person at age 50 to win a PGA Open, and just the crowd going crazy.
I'm more than happy to start there, brother. If you want to start there, it was a pretty remarkable day in golf yesterday. That not only did Phil Mickelson at 50 years and 11 months win a major by taking the PGA Championship, but he also held off one of the young guns in golf, in Brooks Koepka, to do it. I don't know how many people actually expected Lefty, our man Lefty, our contemporary Lefty, to be able to hold off Koepka, because Koepka is a guy who's won a lot of majors already in his career. He was coming off knee surgery, so supposedly he's healthy again, and he does hit big, and he is a risk taker, and he's somebody who can gobble up shots on a last day. But Mickelson managed to stay ahead of him and hold out from a sand trap early in the round to kind of set a I don't want to say a tempo, but to kind of let people know, hey, I'm not going away here. So good for him. Congratulations.
Well, I've always thought that golf needs a guy that people can follow, and people followed Tiger Woods for years until he got injured. And Mick was always Phil Mickelson. I say Mick like I'm his best friend.
Nobody calls him Mick.
Yeah, I know. But one thing I like about him, he reminds me of guys that, okay, I'm going to give this shot. I don't know if I can make it, but what the hell? I'll just try it, and a lot of times it works. That's what I like watching about him. He's the guy who sometimes, in my opinion, plays golf like he's playing miniature golf, in the sense that he just tries crazy shots. And, of course, sometimes they work and sometimes they don't. So, I'm not a big golf guy, but, on days like yesterday, you look back and say, oh, look, at golf is, sometimes it's a little too stiff to watch, But I was happy to see Phil Mickelson do what he did yesterday. It was a good thing. It was a good thing.
I mean, the PGA Championship was a tough course. Mickelson's winning score was just 6 under. So that tells you what a tough course it was. But for what he did, and he kept talking about it after afterwards during interviews was, he's looking at this as the last tournament he's going to win because he is 50 years old. He could be playing on the seniors tour already if he wanted to be, terrorizing the seniors. And believe me, when he makes that move and makes that transition, he's going to win a lot of money that first year.
Oh God, yeah.
Because, it really is, when you get into, all of a sudden he's going to be a young guy again. So when that happens, he's basically going to win as much money as he wants to because it'll just depend on how many tournaments he plays. But for 4 days this week, Phil Mickelson was better than anybody. Right. And you can't say that, very often, if at all ever, about a 50-year-old athlete in any sport.
Right. And he doesn't exercise, or it doesn't look like he exercises,
I mean, he does. You have to exercise to some level to remain competitive on the PGA Tour. Obviously, if you look at his body, he's no workout fanatic. No. He's not Bryson DeChambeau or Brooks Koepka or any of those guys. But you do have to keep yourself in a certain amount of condition to be able to compete in the tour. And I'm not including John Daly in that obviously. But as a professional athlete, you do have to be in some semblance of shape.
Well, Daly's son is out there playing now too, so he's not as crazy as his dad, but that's a pretty tough thing to top. Anyway, brother, yesterday at the Garden. Oh, my God. Knicks lost to the Hawks 107-105. What was it, 15,000 fans? Finally.
Yes.
For the first time, in 10 years, 100 years, whatever you want to remember.
What are you talking about?
The Knicks are in the playoffs.
Oh, well, technically it's since 2013, brother. But
yeah, I know, but it seems like it's been like forever.
It does feel like far longer than 8 years.
Yeah, so we're the Knicks. Loud crowds both at the Coliseum and at the Garden. I
was surprised that the crowd at the Coliseum wasn't bigger. Given what the Knicks packed into the Garden, and I certainly hope that for Game 6. That the Islanders can even double what they had, or at least double what they had.
I agree with you, but that's you're right.
They only had about 5,000
unless it was because it's a new week and they're very particular on following the calendar, so it could be that.
Yeah, that could have something to do with it. Because all of these rules are changing.
Well, they change every week. They say, okay, we can do more now.
Yeah, and that's what I think. That's what happened last week before the Knicks. In fact, Governor Cuomo from New York basically told him, hey, put as many people in the building as you want, because this is what the CDC is telling us now, and this is what we can do. And he said it's up to the teams to say, all right, hey, this is how many seats we're going to set aside for non-vaccinated people, and this is what we're going to set aside for vaccinated people. Now, the teams can do however they want. So I fully expect that there will be very minimal seating for non-vaccinated people.
Well, why would you?
Because vaccinated people, you can fill every seat in the building. So in theory, and if I'm the Knicks and the Nets and the Islanders, I'm telling non-vaccinated people, hey, go scratch. Watch it on cable.
That's what I would say.
We're putting butts in the seats. And if you're dumb enough that you haven't gotten a vaccine yet, well, too bad.
I agree with you, brother.
Go put your ass in a chair and put a needle in your arm, and you can come out and watch the game too.
I agree with you, and it'd be great if they said that. They're not going to, but I agree that if they said vaccinated people only, I think you would, more people would go, first of all. Of course, you have to get tickets. That's the other thing, too. But you're right. That would be a great thing for the team to say, hey, no non-vaccinated people. And nothing against you, but we are worried about everyone. We're still worried, even though, let's be honest.
I got plenty against. If you're not vaccinated yet, then I don't know what you're thinking.
Oh, I agree, brother. But, some people will not be convinced, brother, because they think it's something that's not right.
Yeah, it's a plot.
Whatever.
Bill Gates is trying to microchip you. Sure.
Yeah, that's right. Because, of course, it's in liquid form.
Yeah, so anyway, and going through a syringe.
Yeah, of course. And, of course, he's getting divorced at the same time. It's all connected, brother.
Yeah, of course.
But anyway, the Knicks lost 107-105. Last second shot from the Hawks. I mean, just, you watch it, you're like, oh, come on, man. Has this guy become the new Reggie Miller yet? It's like
Trae Young, brother, wants to be the new Reggie Miller. He talked about it last night. He talked about coming to the Garden and having thousands of people hate you. And he said, if they hate you, you must be doing something right. And last night, Trae Young did a lot right. He is a guy. Yep. For me, he's a polarizing figure because he really is a great player. And I'll give him that. But when he was at Oklahoma, he was a guy who could shoot his team out of the game just as easily as he could shoot them into it.
Right.
Because he thinks his range is Steph Curry range, and it's not. So this season, he hasn't stopped taking crazy shots, but he has significantly reduced them. And he's become more of a point guard and the guy that the Hawks drafted. Now remember, the Hawks and the Dallas Mavericks made a trade on draft day a few years ago where Trae Young went to the Hawks and Luka Doncic went to the Mavericks. So, and there was a couple of draft picks involved as well. So as far as I'm concerned, the Mavericks won that trade, even though Trae Young is a great player and it certainly is a guy you can build your franchise around. But Luka Doncic is. He's a generational player. I mean, right. to me, and who knows, maybe I'll be proven wrong over time, but if I'm taking one of those two guys today, I'm taking Luka Doncic all day. Now, that being said, Trae Young is no stiff. And he showed it last night. He has a multi-dimensional game. He is a guy that certainly can drive to the basket with the best players in the league. He's become a better distributor. And he can still shoot. He just is learning because he's still a young player. He only played 1 year of college at Oklahoma, so he's learned that shooting from 30 feet isn't always a good decision. In fact, it rarely is a good decision. You can shoot good open threes from the line, or you can continue to move the ball and try to make a better shot for your teammate.
Right. So, but then again, brother, that's like the new thing now. If you watch. I think there's too many 3-pointers taken in a game.
I don't disagree.
So I'd rather see a little more passing. But I hate when there's too many 3-pointers taken because I always think, well, maybe that could have gone as a 2-pointer and actually gone in. So
yeah. I don't disagree. I mean, in a way, basketball and baseball are getting away from fundamentals. Because I'll use baseball as the example because. With baseball these days, you're coming down to the entire game is revolving around the three outcomes, as they call them, which is strikeout, walk, or home run. And you don't see a lot of rallies these days. It's just who can get the launch angle right and get the timing right and hit a home run. And how many runs are we going to get off of that home run? Will it be a solo? Will it be a grand slam? And that's how teams score runs these days. Now. With basketball, with several teams, the 2-point shot, whatever it is, be it the mid-range jumper, which you almost never see anymore, or driving to the basket. I mean, too many guys are way too satisfied with chucking up a 25-footer.
Yep.
And granted, a lot more guys nowadays can make them because they've grown up with a 3-pointer and they've grown up needing to develop that sort of range. But, for too many guys to think they're Steph Curry is an otherworldly talent as far as his shooting ability. And there are very few people who are even close to him in that class. I'll put Damian Lillard in there. But there really aren't more than a couple of guys in the league, and that's in the NBA, who are at that level. And Trae Young is not one of them. Now, that being said, if I'm looking for a guy to drive the ball to the basket, do I take Damian Lillard? Yeah, I'll still take Dame. But Trae Young is one of the guys who's in that group that I'll say, all right, yeah, Trae, you can go to the basket, and that's your thing. You're really good at that. And we saw it last night. And this was, and I have been full of praise for Tom Thibodeau this year.
We love him.
Man, did he screw it up last night? I understand what he was thinking and what his motivation was, but the Hawks got the ball with like, I don't know what, 10 seconds left, less than 10 seconds. And Tom Thibodeau decides at that moment to put Frank Ntilikina into the game for the first time all night. You got to be kidding. You know, yes, he is your best defensive guard. I'm not going to say he's not. But to put a guy who's been sitting on the bench the entire game into the game and say, hey, go lock down Trae Young in the last 10 seconds. We need you. That's just, it's too much to ask. It's too much to ask any player to just come off the bench cold. And the first thing you need to do is lock down the best player on the court in the biggest moment of the game. You got to know your personnel. And like I said, yes, Ntilikina is your best defensive guard, but he's been sitting on his butt the whole night. You can't ask him to do something like that.
Yeah, I agree.
I couldn't believe it when I saw number 11 D'ing up Trae Young, and I'm like, oh, this isn't going to end well.
Yeah, you need someone who's been in the game the whole game, and
he's got to have some loose legs. He's got to be warmed up.
Yeah, have the blood going through you. You know,
exactly. And maybe if something like that happens in game 2 or something, somewhere in the series where it's tied up and somebody's going to get the ball, maybe Thibodeau tells Ntilikina in the last couple of minutes to go find a place to run or just get, do a couple of sprints or at least get his legs warmed up a little bit.
Right.
But to just call him and say, Frank, we need you, get in. Oh, come on. Tibbs. I mean, he knows. Yeah, and Ntilikina was getting killed on Twitter last night. Absolutely killed. And I'm like, how is it? I know Knicks fans don't like him, and I don't like him. The guy's been a colossal bust for them. But to put him in that situation, it wasn't fair. And I'm not going to kill the guy for doing something that when your coach puts you in a position and he's putting you in a position where you're almost certainly going to fail. I can't kill the guy for that. It was just an unreasonable ask.
There are other ways to get on his case, but not because it's not his fault. He's put in the last 10 seconds of a game.
Right.
Anyway, let's get to the Islanders. They lost game 3 against the Penguins. They did not play well the first 2 periods. Third period, they started to get goals, but every time they got a goal, the Penguins would come back and take the wind out of the sail. I didn't think they played very well in that game. It was great to hear the crowd. I mean, the Coliseum had 7,000 people in it, and it sounded like a full arena, as many games at the Coliseum have proven. When that place gets rocking, it is the loudest place in the world. And I was a little disappointed with game 3, but then what happens? Game 4, they beat the Penguins very convincingly 4-1. So now they're 2-2, or 2-2 in the series. Last 3 games will settle this, of course. Islanders will have game 6 at the Coliseum, 5-7 in Pittsburgh.
Game 5 is tonight, brother. Tonight at 7 p.m. Yep. That'll be on NBCSN for anybody looking for it on the dial. So
that's good.
We'll see what happens. I mean, the Islanders have not had success against the Penguins tonight. So,
they haven't had a successful season. They were the only team they really didn't play well against this season.
It was one of the few teams that they did not have any answers for. I'll tell you what. In game 3, I was disappointed with Semyon Varlamov. He did not play well. He's been the guy that has carried this team.
Yes,
so many times this season. And I don't know what it was, but he was clearly off his game. Now, whether that's a one-game thing or Varlamov is still dealing with whatever the late season injury that he had that caused Islanders coach Barry Trotz to start Ilya Sorokin in game 1. If he's still dealing with that, then it has shown that it's still there in games 2 and 3. For me, if I'm Barry Trotz, then Varlamov is a passenger for the rest of the series because he hasn't shown he can get it done. Sorokin won game 1 for the Islanders and was outstanding in game 4. 4-1 final. It basically was a shutout because the Penguins didn't score until very late in the game. It was 4-0 before it was 4-1. So the Islanders had built a convincing lead, and that Penguins goal meant nothing. The only thing it meant was that it spoiled a shutout. So as far as this series goes, Sorokin's my guy, and like I said, I know Varlamov has been the guy to get them where they are, and he's been their number one and the guy who they've relied on so much. But it's the playoffs, and you got to go with the hot guy, and that means Varlamov's got to be a passenger, and he's got to be the guy that gives Sorokin some advice or gives him a pat on the butt, whatever it is. But he's just got to be on the bench for now. And reevaluate for the next series, but Sorokin's got to be my guy. And if Sorokin isn't playing in Game 5, then I don't think Barry Trotz is reading the room correctly. And I hope Barry Trotz, and I know he's smart enough to do it. I just hope that he doesn't let loyalty to certain players get in the way of making the right decision, because the right decision tonight is to have Sorokin in goal.
No, I agree. I think the Islanders, especially since they've won the first and the fourth game, with good attitude and good playing, I think you have to go. This reminds me of a little bit. It's like when Chico Resch all of a sudden wasn't as hot. He was the lead goalie, and then all of a sudden he was cold a little bit, and then they bring in Billy Smith, and then he's the hottest playoff goalie ever. This could be a similar thing. I mean, It would be nice to see the Islanders beat up on the Penguins, because I think everyone else they can beat up on too. It's the getting through the Penguins that's a little bothersome, but we'll see what happens.
Well, like we said, the Islanders have not had success against the Penguins this season. I don't remember exactly what the record was, but they were something like 1-5 against them in the regular season. It was not a good matchup for the Islanders. So here we are at 2-2, and that's why losing Game 3 was such a difficult thing for the Islanders. Because if they could have gone back to Pittsburgh up 3-1, if the Islanders could have handled business at home, then I don't want to say the series is over, but it's real close to being over. And that's why Varlamov having really, I don't want to say he had a howler, but he didn't have a good game. He certainly wasn't sharp.
Right.
And he didn't come up with the big saves when the Islanders needed, because like you said before, every time the Islanders scored and got some momentum back, well, here's Pittsburgh scoring a minute or 2 minutes or 3 minutes later and taking it right back. And that's something you can't allow to happen in the playoffs. And it happened several times in one game. So,
especially in your home arena where it's like rocking and loud, and you got your fans, you get 7,000 fans in there. The first time you've had, that many people watching an Islanders game in the year. So I think it'd be, I hope tonight there's even more. I hope, if the Knicks can get 15,000, then let's get, 13,500 into the Coliseum.
It's the old barn rocking.
Yeah, I mean, that's 13.5 is about what it can take, I think. 13.7 or whatever. So, by the way, I was just, I'm just going to throw this in there. I was reading an article about the Islanders, and they're talking about, for the third time or fourth time or whatever, this could be the last series of games at the Coliseum. But then I was reading that there is a chance that the UBS Arena will not be open before November.
There's always that chance. Look at what happened with Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. They had to keep playing games at Wembley because security tests weren't going the way they expected them to. And it's like, oh, hey, Wembley, can we play 2 or 3 more games here? Yeah, sure, no problem, whatever. And they dragged on for a couple of months. So,
well, that could
let's not take these ready dates as if they're set in stone, because they rarely are.
Right.
And if there is a glitch before they open, then they're not going to open, because you're not going to open in a building that isn't completely 100% safe and secure. And all of those tests need to be done after the building is completed. They can't run them beforehand. So we'll see how it goes. But yes, it is possible, bro.
It is possible. So for everyone saying, "Oh, it might be the last games," well, guess what? There's a chance that there is a better chance. I would say a more than a 50% chance that there could be a couple of more games, unless they just throw the Islanders on a road trip that lasts for a month and a half, 2 months. You don't want that.
Another possibility. Send them to the Garden for a couple of home games.
Oh yeah, that's always good. Make sure that the Devils too.
That would be a disaster.
Anyway, you're listening to 90.3 WHPC, the voice of Nassau Community College. This is From the Press Box, here every Monday, 9 a.m. to 10 a.m. talking sports. I'm Rob Leonard. Joining me, of course, is my brother and award-winning sports writer, Tim Leonard. We are part of the WHPC Sports Talk family. We're 9 a.m. to 10 a.m. every Monday. Then Monday through Friday, 4 p.m. to 5 p.m. is daily sports talk. And then Tuesday night, 10 to midnight, there's another sports talk show. So there's a lot of sports here at WHPC. Please listen. And, of course, our show becomes a podcast later on at Spreaker.com. You can go to Spotify, type in From the Press Box. I think we're on iHeartRadio too. But if you just want to start, just go to nccradio.org and just scroll down where it says podcast, and you can go there. But it's on Spotify too. And the beautiful thing about Spotify, brother, is a lot of people are on Spotify, so they don't have to switch. They don't have to leave their little safety zone of being on Spotify, because that's what happens. It's like, at 10 o'clock, I'll watch Law & Order, SVU, and then 11 o'clock, I'll just leave the channel on, and it's the news on Channel 4. So,
yes.
And then Jimmy Fallon comes on, and then, Seth Meyers, and all of a sudden you've watched, Channel 4 for 4 straight hours. So
all of a sudden you've been awake for 24 hours.
That's exactly
by the way,
what
brother,
they
we likely have a handful of new viewers or listeners
really?
Over from the UK, thanks to a podcast I did yesterday.
Oh, okay. So, well, you've been doing some soccer podcasts, brother. What's that?
Tottenham Hotspur. My man, Bobsy, and he's putting together a good group of people, and we've been talking some Tottenham Hotspur. And yesterday we did a season wrap up of the season that was a bit of a disappointment, and but we had a good chat.
Well, you gotta post it on our Facebook page.
I posted it on my Facebook page. What I did post, brother, that I do want to mention. It was from the Islanders game. I do believe it was game 3. And I'm sure your favorite new favorite Jet, offensive lineman Dan Feeney. Now, I didn't even realize it was the Jets when I first saw this video. But then I quickly saw that, hey, here's new quarterback Zach Wilson in his Islanders jersey with number 2 on it. Somebody spent a good amount of cash outfitting probably at least a dozen members of the Jets in personalized gear.
Right.
So Wilson had an Islanders jersey with number 2 Wilson on it. And here's my man Dan Feeney. I have posted the video on the From the Press Box Facebook page. If you haven't seen it, it was after an Islanders goal. Dan Feeney, who has one of the best mullets you're ever going to see in your life.
Okay.
We're talking hockey level flow here. We're talking Tim Leonard level flow. That's how good his hair is.
You've never had a mullet.
No, but I have outstanding flow, brother. But
well, so do I.
Dan Feeney, we're talking an absolute elite level mullet. He chugs a beer, and while he's celebrating and trying to fire up the crowd, starts smacking a can against his head, and the Jets were going crazy. Zach Wilson was loving it. The people in the section around Dan Feeney were getting fired up, and I've never seen anything like that from another athlete watching a game in any sport. I don't take this the wrong way, but this sounds like he might be Gronk's son or something. He very well could be, but that wouldn't be a bad place for Dan Feeney to be.
Yeah, well,
he could be America's new idiot. I don't know, but he is a.
But he's
free
on the
agent
Jets, though. If he's on the Jets, you don't want him to be the idiot because he's our guy. So I
don't care.
Root for him.
I don't care because you know what? As much as Gronk is America's idiot, he's good. So I don't know if Dan Feeney's ever going to be as good as Gronk. I don't even know if he's actually going to have a job this season on the Jets. But for one night, an otherwise anonymous offensive lineman certainly did make a name for himself, both with Jets fans and with Islanders fans. So go Dan Feeney. I hope you win a job. I'm hoping you're the starter this year because that was outstanding.
Well, also, the Jets used to play practice at Hofstra, right next door to the Coliseum. So this could have, if they ever came back to Hofstra, they could have, since they don't even have a football team anymore, they'd be easy to practice there. Talking about Hofstra, of course.
Assuming the field is still there.
No, the stadium's still there.
Yes. So there you go. Well, yeah, but that's not where they practiced. So.
Oh well, I'm sure.
Who knows?
The Stewart Field is there still. Jimmy Stewart Field.
Yes.
Anyway, brother. Well, remember a couple of weeks ago we were like, well, I know I wasn't worried because I'm a big Yankee fan. But you were very worried about the Yankees, falling down that rabbit hole that they weren't going to get up out of. And what happens this weekend? They destroy one of the best teams in baseball, the White Sox, sweep them. I remember a couple of weeks ago, brother, when you were really sad, you said, my Yankee season's over.
You're lying.
What's happened?
Stop lying on the air. Just stop.
What's happening to my Yankees?
You're funny right now, but you're not being funny.
Oh,
you're putting out bad information. Don't do that.
I am on purpose. You're right.
Don't do that to the listeners.
Well, I'm doing it to you. So.
There's nothing funny about that.
It is.
I never said any of those things. And
you sure?
I would want to say that the Yankees are the hottest team in baseball, but incredibly they're not. It's unbelievable what's going on in baseball right now.
Right.
Because the Yankees have won 6 in a row. They've won, I think it's 9 series in a row. Think about where the Yankees are right now. They were 5-10 during the period that you're talking about, and they are currently 28-19, which means that they are 23-9 since they were 5-10. I'll take that any day of the week.
I think anyone would take that. That's pretty good.
But the Yankees, hang on, brother, hang on. Let me cut you off here. But the Yankees have won 6 in a row, and that includes a sweep over the Chicago White Sox, who before running into the Yankees had the best record in the American League and possibly in all of baseball. And the Yankees just handed it to them. And right now, the only reason the Yankees aren't taking over the American League East is because the Tampa Bay Rays have won 10 in a row.
Wow. So
the Yankees aren't catching up to Tampa Bay, but both teams certainly are catching up to the Boston Red Sox, who right now the American League East, the Red Sox and the Tampa Bay Rays have the same record at 29-19. The Yankees are 1.5 game back at 28-19, but since the loss column is the all-important column, basically we have a three-team tie for first place in the American League East right now. And the only other teams that are really playing at that level, San Diego Padres have a 9-game winning streak right now, and the Los Angeles Dodgers have a 7-game winning streak, and they are separating themselves quickly in the National League West, even though the San Francisco Giants are still kind of hanging around because they've been in first place for most of the season so far. But now the Padres and the Dodgers seem like they're getting serious as far as slugging it out between each other to see who's going to win the West. So baseball is starting to happen, brother, because we've had the first quarter of the season. There was pretty much no teams playing 600 ball because nobody could put together a winning streak. Now all of a sudden it seems like we got 4 or 5 teams that have at least a 6-game winning streak going.
It's amazing. Baseball, with the silly rules right now and some other things going on there, it's going good. And to be honest with you, San Diego, Los Angeles is a pretty good rivalry when it gets going. That's California thing. They're very kind of close to each other. People can go to each other's games,
Yeah, it's more of a geographic rivalry, or it has been over the years, just because it's almost like in some ways Yankees Red Sox, because you could call it a rivalry, but for the longest time the Red Sox it was just a geographic thing. The Red Sox weren't doing anything to hurt the Yankees, and it just the Yankees were the dominant figure in this quote unquote rivalry. But now the Dodgers can't help but look at the Padres and see a team that's just as good as they are. Yep. And if they overlook the Padres, then they're not going to win the division. And for most people who follow baseball look at the Dodgers and the Padres as the two best teams in baseball. And the Yankees are up there, in probably in the top three. The White Sox are a young and developing team, but they've lost Eloy Jimenez for the season, so that hurts them significantly. I'm just looking through the standings right now. Certainly, the Giants were not expected to be where they are right now. They've been playing some outstanding baseball, and good for them. But NL Central, there's nothing really all that special there. The Cardinals are in first place, but were doing better maybe a week or so ago, and kind of they're 4-6 in their last 10. The National League East is pretty much the same. Nobody has distinguished themselves in any way in this division.
No, it's not the best. It's not the best division, brother.
Yeah, but the Mets are in first place with a 21-19 record, so good for them. They're hanging in there despite all the injuries. And the American League West is the Oakland Athletics have been playing pretty well, even though they're talking about moving and not getting out of Oakland finally. But the rest of the division, the Houston Astros are hanging around, but Texas, Seattle, and the Angels are they're looking like also rans at this point already.
Imagine the A's move to Las Vegas.
I certainly could imagine it. This is a team that there have been so many conversations about a new stadium, about how they can't play in the stadium they have, and they've had the upper deck covered for years. I mean, this was not a COVID thing or a pandemic thing. This was we can't get enough people to come here thing. Yep. So I certainly could see Oakland moving, because they have been complaining for years that they can't get enough people to come to games. And what's Major League Baseball dependent on is fans and putting butts in seats. And if you have a team, and Tampa Bay is another one, if you have a team that shows and demonstrates that they can't attract more than 15 or 20,000 fans for a game, then you look for a new place.
Yeah, I expect them to move in the next couple of years. Though it would be funny, but I feel bad for the Oakland, because they keep losing teams.
I don't. If you're not going to support the team, then you don't deserve a team.
Yeah.
This all goes back, and I've told this story before, when I was working up in Albany, and the people up there said, "Oh, we deserve a major league team," and I'm like, "Well, no, you don't." The NBA runs exhibition games here, and the arena isn't even half full because people whine and moan about how expensive tickets are. I said, "What, you think they're going to be less? Do you think they're going to be cheaper for regular season games as opposed to exhibition games? No."
Yep.
This is what a professional sports team costs. And if enough people aren't willing to show that, hey, we're going to sell it out, and we're going to sell tickets, and we're going to be a good city for a league, no matter what league that is, whether it's the NHL, NBA, NFL, or MLB, or even MLS, then you're not going to get a team.
Well, look at Oklahoma City.
Exactly.
They support a NBA basketball team. And you wouldn't think Oklahoma City would support any big team, because it's not a big city. But they all came out. It's a pride thing, a civic pride thing also. So you're right. Part of, if you're going to have a team, you have to support it. It's not just there because, it's our turn to have a team.
Right.
Let's talk about the Mets, brother. Sean Novat, who's our director, brought up a good point, in which I almost forgot to mention, but I'm glad he mentioned it. Jacob deGrom last week was pitching down in Palm Beach, the Cardinals.
Yes.
And
Single A.
Big delay. And these guys are, these are...
Single A, brother, not big delay. I don't know where big delay.
No. I didn't say big delay.
That's what I heard.
Well, clean those ears out. Anyway, he's pitching 102 miles per hour. Single A guys, these guys are 21, 22, and
if that,
and he's just blowing them away. And the Palm Beach Cardinals tweeted out, "Please send help."
And, Jacob deGrom is throwing 102 miles an hour. Please send help.
Yeah, so
he needed some help because Jacob. I think if I remember correctly, Jacob deGrom pitched 3 innings and struck out 8.
That's pretty damn good.
Which is pretty remarkable.
That's very good.
I give those kids credit for standing in the box because they haven't seen anything resembling 102.
No, not at all. And
they haven't seen that. The only good thing for them, if I'm a kid who's that young standing in the box against deGrom, is I know his control is so pinpoint that he's not going to kill me with it because he's going to throw strikes. And even if it's 102, you got a shot at hitting it because it's going to be in the strike zone. It's not going to hit, whether it's your head, your arm, whatever. 102 will break stuff. So they were not. The Palm Beach Cardinals were not in a good place.
deGrom returns Tuesday, by the way.
Yes.
We look forward to that, and good to see that he's okay. And he's okay. That's the main thing. The Mets, they're playing okay, but the National League East isn't, like we just said, isn't the most competitive right now. But you know what? If it means the Mets are in first place, I'll take it.
Yes, bro. Well, before we totally get off the Yankees here, brother, I can't believe you're missing one of the biggest stories of the season so far. Was Corey Kluber's no-hitter.
Okay.
Corey Kluber threw a no-hitter, brother. It's the first no-hitter for the Yankees since David Cohn's perfect game. First no-hitter for the Yankees in this century.
Okay.
So, congratulations to him. Beat the Texas Rangers 2-0 on Wednesday. Kluber was outstanding. 112 pitches, allowed 1 runner to reach base, and that was a 3rd inning walk. So he almost threw a perfect game. This is where we are, brother. This is what I've been kind of jokingly telling people, that the Yankees have become a pitching club because the bats still aren't where they should be and where they need to be. But Yankee starters now in the last 5 games, Yankee starters have thrown 35 shutout innings, and that is a streak that continues into tomorrow night's game. Kluber 9 shutout innings with the no-hitter. Then it was Domingo Germán, 7 shutout innings. Garrett Cole, 7 shutout innings. Jordan Montgomery, 7 shutout innings. And yesterday, Jameson Taillon had 5 shutout innings. So you don't have to do the math. I already did it. It is up to 35. So this is a team that the rotation was expected to be good, but it wasn't expected to be this good. Not even close. So my question now is, what happens when Luis Severino comes back? Who do you replace? And right now, to me, the guy who is the most replaceable is Jameson Taillon, but I don't see him getting replaced because he's the guy you traded 4 prospects for from the Pittsburgh Pirates. You invested in this guy, and I think the Yankees want to see what he can do. I mean, he had his second Tommy John surgery. He's still coming back from that. So I think the Yankees want to see, what this guy can give them before, and they're not going to give up on him just a handful of starts into the season. So at this point, unless somebody gets hurt, it's sad to say, I see Jordan Montgomery being the odd man out yet again. It's been kind of been the story of his Yankees career. But Severino should be ready in a month or so, maybe 5 or 6 weeks. But, he's supposed to be back somewhere in late June, early July. And that's 5 weeks. So, he is a guy who you need to have in the rotation. Unless for whatever reason, unless there's some kind of innings limit on him, that they make him some kind of long reliever or they just kind of carry him a little bit, through the rest of the season, because obviously a lot of pitchers are going to have some sort of innings restrictions this season because nobody pitched very much last year. I mean, there weren't a lot of pitchers that even made 100 innings last year.
Right,
so,
right.
You know, the train of thinking as far as pitchers goes is you don't want to increase their workload dramatically from season to season. Now, Garrett Cole, I can pretty much guarantee you is going to pitch 200 innings this year. That's just Garrett Cole. That's who he is. He's a horse, and that's what he does. But if the Yankees can take one pitcher out of the rotation, and that would be, I think, either Taillon or Montgomery, since they're both coming back from injuries, then I could see a situation where one of those two guys gets basically just they'll tell him, sit down for the rest of the season because you've reached your innings, and we got Severino to take over, and he's going to be the new guy. I could see things like that happen, not just with the Yankees, but with a lot of teams, because I'm sure none of them want to have a situation where they're going to have a bunch of guys pitch big innings and have that kind of stress on their arms. So I think we're going to find out what's going to happen. Obviously, as the season goes on and pitchers start getting into that, say, 120 or so innings level, and I think we're going to see, especially some younger starters, where the teams tell them, look, you're done for the rest of the season, and we're going to find guys to pick up your innings, but we don't want you going from 60 or 70 innings in 2020 to 190 innings in 2021, because you got to think about the pitcher's long-term health here. So I think that's something that is, to me, it's predictable and it's going to happen. And, I think we'll just find out how that goes. And one more thing I just wanted to mention, brother, I don't know what you're doing here, but Gleyber Torres has been outstanding since returning to returning to the lineup, because he was out for a little bit with the COVID. He was basically out for a week or so after testing positive again. He's one of the few people I know who apparently has had COVID twice. But after he had the consecutive positive tests and since rejoining the team, Gleyber Torres has been on fire. He's been, we talked about Aaron Judge last week and how he was carrying the team. And now we are in a week where Gleyber Torres has just been swinging a hot bat. And he basically won 2 of those games against the White Sox by himself. Gleyber Torres, I'll give you numbers, in his last 5 games since coming off the COVID list. I'm just going to do some quick math here. 18, 6, 8, 10. He is 11 for 18 in his last 5 games, with 8 RBIs. So nothing wrong with that. And 1 home run. But against the White Sox, he was 8 for 12 with 1 home run and 8 RBIs. So he's just been crushing the ball. And he's got his batting average now up to 282, where, not so long ago it was Mendoza line quality. It was 200. It was under 200. It was slightly over 200. But this little surge since he's gotten back from COVID, I don't know what he did or what the changes were made, but Gleyber Torres has been absolutely phenomenal, and right now is carrying the Yankees, and they need guys to do this while Giancarlo Stanton is on the DL or the IL as they call it now. So from that regard, it's something that the Yankees obviously like to see, because they've had still far too many players not producing. Clint Frazier has been one of the main culprits as far as that goes. But we're seeing the averages creep up. Luke Voit who came back from his knee stuff, as I like to call it. Every injury with Luke Voit now, it has this word "stuff" after it. But he's only batting 175 since he's come back. But Aaron Judge, we talked about the surge he had a couple weeks ago. He's up at 308 right now, so I have no problems with Aaron Judge. Urshela's batting 277. Excuse me. But Gary Sanchez is still under 200. Miguel Andujar was promoted, and he's hitting better lately, but he's still below 200. Rougned Odor, who the Yankees picked up from the Texas Rangers, is batting under 200, and Clint Frazier, even with a 3-for-4 yesterday, is still batting 171. So, Clint Frazier for me is the guy that really needs to step it up and figure it out. I mean, he's a young player, had a really good season last year, and this season with him basically being given the starting left fielder's job, this should have been a breakout year for him. And so far, it's been a struggle, and it's a little bit of concern. The Yankees right now are having outfield issues because of injuries. We're looking at likely surgery, season-ending surgery for Aaron Hicks. So they're going to have to do a little patchwork and see how they can make it work. Because, like I said, with Stanton out, then somebody's got to pick up those DH at bats. And yesterday it was Aaron Judge. I mean, me personally, I would put Gary Sanchez in there every day so I could have Higashioka catching every day. But we'll see.
Brother, I wanted to bring up a lot about the Yankees. The Mets have a lot of people on the I.
Mets have a huge number. I mean, that's why. And I don't know if I said it before, but I've been impressed with the Mets because most of the team is on the IL, and I certainly know how that can be as a Yankees fan, especially in the last couple of years because the Yankees have had so many injuries. But the fact that the Mets are still in first place with the monumental amount of injuries that they've had is pretty much a miracle. And if anybody is criticizing Luis Rojas right now, then you need your head examined because the guy is doing it with a bunch of nobodies and so many guys who weren't expected to have roles with this team. And not only that, but your quote unquote best, highest paid player, Francisco Lindor, the guy that you signed to the 10-year contract before the season started, is still only batting 194. So, and your big name catcher that you signed, James McCann, is batting 200. So, these were the big signings for the Mets.
Yep.
Meanwhile, I mean, I'm gonna throw names out at you here. These are guys I never heard of. All right. John Eshwi. I don't even know how to pronounce this guy's name. John Eshwi Fargas. He was your center fielder yesterday for the New York Mets. All right. Brandon Drury, who I remember from his brief stay with the New York Yankees. He was your third baseman yesterday. Khalil Lee, who I remember that the Mets picked up in a trade from the Kansas City Royals before the season started. And Khalil Lee was a decent prospect for the Royals, but he was your right fielder yesterday. Jordan Yamamoto, who I remember from the Miami Marlins, he started for the Mets yesterday. All right. Wilfredo Tovar was the Mets second baseman yesterday. There are a lot of guys in this lineup that I have never heard of. All right. And I've heard of pretty much everybody in the National League. So that's 4 guys in the Mets lineup that I don't even know. John Eshwi. I mean, what kind of name is that? So, and he's the guy that's doing the best. He's hitting 300. So, the fact that the Mets are putting a competitive team on the field and, are still maintaining a record that is above 500 and has them in first place, that is something of a miracle. And Met fans right now should be thrilled because it resembles the team that the Yankees had a couple of years ago where everybody was on the DL, but the Yankees were running out of AAA lineup and still winning games. And one of the common threads in that was Cameron Maybin, who the Mets had picked up, or they got him in a trade, I think, or signed him as a free agent, one or the other. But he was your starting left fielder for the Mets yesterday. So Cameron Maybin comes in when there are times of trouble, and with any luck, we'll get the job done. He's 34 years old. He's played on I don't even know how many teams. It's probably close to 10 by now. But he is the guy that you call on to say, hey, Cameron Maybin, we need you. We need you to help us, and we need you to hopefully play pretty well. Because when he was with the Yankees in 2019, he had to play 82 games. He wound up with 11 home runs and 32 RBIs and batted .285. And I'm sure the Mets would love to have that kind of production from him as far as things are going right now, because they do have some issues and some major injury issues. Not the least of which is Jacob deGrom missing a start or two.
Right. No, that's the most important thing right now, brother.
Yeah, of course. But Pete Alonso being out for a couple of weeks is also pretty big, and Conforto being hurt, Nimmo being hurt. The Mets have major injury issues going on right now. And again, I mean, for Met fans to be criticizing Rojas, the manager, I will never understand that. It doesn't make any sense. I haven't
said anything bad about him.
I know you've been a good fan, brother.
I know. We're running out of time, brother. The Nets, game 1 against the Celtics.
Hello.
They did okay. I give them credit.
I didn't catch anything you just said, brother. Your internet cut out for a second.
I did? Okay. I was talking about the
who's
Nets.
Doing okay?
I was talking about the Nets Celtics game.
Nets. The only question for me in that series is, do the Nets win in 4 or 5? That's it. I mean, I don't want to say it's not worth talking about, but the Nets are going to destroy the Celtics in that series. Tatum is going to try and he's going to do his best and we'll see what happens, but I don't see that series doing anything. It's just right. And it's good for the Nets because they get to they get to get games with the big three and they get to have minutes together. But Jason Tatum by himself is not going to beat the Nets, and that's basically where the Celtics are right now. So again, it's either going to be 4 games or it's going to be 5 games, but it's not going to go any longer than 5 games.
Well, the beautiful thing is that, like you said, the big three are playing together, and I think that's something to think about because it really hasn't happened much this year. So I think this could be fun just for watching that. But at the same time, something I said at the beginning of the season, and you said it too. I expected the Nets to take over New York this year, and it didn't really happen.
Yeah, but nobody's been able to take over any cities because nobody's had any fans. So
yeah, well, even so, I mean, just the buzz of watching the Nets play with these guys. So that was my thing about it. So I think you're right. I think it'd be great. It was Knicks for a conference final. It won't happen, but it'd be nice.
It could, but it probably
it could. But
anything is possible. Yeah, the Knicks need to get their first playoff win, and let's start there.
Okay, brother. We have
2 things I want to throw in here, brother. Before we
we have less than a minute, so make it fast.
Right. I want to tell everybody, jump on that New York Liberty bandwagon. This is a good club. I like what they've done. Sabrina Ionescu, phenomenal player. Jump on the bandwagon now. Trust me on that. Soccer. Manchester City raised the Premier League trophy on Sunday. The season is over. Harry Kane, my man, wins the Golden Boot. I hope he stays at Tottenham, but I have a feeling he won't. Inter Milan won Italy.
Okay,
Atletico Madrid won Spain, and Lille won France. All very pleasant surprises.
It's over.
Yes.
Anyway, sorry. Anyway, you've been listening to sport.
Talking.
What?
You can't stop talking.
Well, you got to end the show.
I'm trying to.
It's 1 minute left. You're chatting away about
and
something.
Now you're yelling at me instead of allowing me to talk sports.
I'm your older brother. I'm allowed to. Anyway, you've been listening to From the Press Box right here on 90.3 WHPC. I'm Rob Leonard. He is, of course, my brother, who I've loved all my life and have always given guidance and kindness to. And anyway, coming up at 10 o'clock, you know him, you love him. It's Big Ed Newlands with the Good Gold Show. Keep it tuned to WHPC. And thank you, Sean Novak, for keeping us on the air. Take care and bye-bye.